Now this would be a really nice card to receive.
Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and this is my weekly vlog for Monday, March the 18th, 2019. And hope everybody had a good weekend and are going to have a good week as well. Well, today, in a few hours, we're going off to the airport, and about 20 some hours later, we will arrive in Brisbane, Australia. And we're going to be there for about 3.5 weeks on that side of Australia. We're not spending all that time in just Brisbane. We're going up to Cairns, and then we're going up to Darwin and then back to Brisbane as well. So this will be our third trip to Australia in about 2.5 years. And we love Australia. We love the Australian people. And we're looking forward to this trip. The only thing I'm not looking forward to is the airport, because every time you go to the airport, it puts you through stress because you don't know where to go. The kiosks for getting your tickets processed and your baggage process, it usually screws up somewhere, and there's never anybody there to help you. And sorry about the glare coming off my glasses. It's kind of sunny today, which is a great day for flying outside, and it's streaming through my window. So anyways, we get picked up about 2:30 this afternoon by a car. We hired a driver so we don't have to worry about leaving our car at the airport. And yeah, it costs you a little bit, like a couple $100, I guess, round trip. But you know, I find it's just worth it, because you're going to spend that at least, or more actually, if you park at the airport, and you don't have the hassle. You know, you get chauffeured there, they take you right to the doors of the terminal, in you go. You're not dragging your bag all over Hell's Half Acre kind of a thing. So in my way of thinking, there's enough stress when you travel. If this alleviates some of the stress, it's worth the money, really. Okay, so that comes up this afternoon. Our flight goes out about 7 o'clock this evening, and the first leg of our journey is to get from Toronto to Vancouver, and that's about 4.5 to 5 hours. And of course, Vancouver is 3 hours behind us, so we leave here at 7, get there around midnight, but it'll really be 9 o'clock their time. Then we have about a 2.5 hour wait over until we get on the plane for Brisbane. And so that takes us to about 2:30 in the morning, our time, Toronto. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because I don't sleep well on the train, or on a plane. I'm hoping I can this time, but it's all going to depend on multiple factors. And yeah, it'd be nice to sleep, because it's 14 hours then to Brisbane, and we'll arrive on Wednesday. Tuesday will disappear, okay, because of they're 16 hours ahead of us in time. It really kind of throws you off. It's not so bad going, we have found. It's more, it really hits you when you come home with that. But anyways, that's the price you pay if you want to go to some place like Australia, okay, which is on the other side of the world. And it's worth it. It really is. So, looking forward to this today, but I am getting in this vlog. This may be my last vlog for 3.5 weeks, roughly, although I am going to try to do some impromptu live streams, both Walter and I, while we're in Australia. It'll be hit and miss because, as I said last week, we don't know what our internet connection is going to be like. Sometimes it's really, really good, and other times it just sucks the big one. So we'll see. Okay, so behind me you can see my latest project. This is my log cabin redo. It's called Quilt. It's the one that I took a class for and had not finished it in the class, but I managed to get it all pieced at the retreat there a week or so ago. And this weekend I managed to get it all sewn together. Now it's all layered. All I have to do now, and you can see the background fabric right here from the corner of the slap down. All that's left to do on this is to quilt it. And I am going to free motion quilt this. I've been practicing my free motion. I'm getting a little bit more confident. Doesn't mean I'm getting any better, but I think I am getting better. But I'm getting a little more confident, and I'm in that attitude where, you know, if it isn't perfect, it doesn't matter. Perfection comes with time, if it ever comes. And you know, what quilters say, I hear this all the time, better done than perfect. So, but since I've been practicing my free motion, I got a book, and I showed you that book a couple of weeks ago. 21 days, they say, to free motion quilting. And yeah, it actually does help. You do need to practice, and I am getting a little bit more confident. So hopefully when I'm away from this for 3.5 weeks, I won't forget how to do it. We'll see. Okay, so that takes us to the YouTube channel of the week, and this one is called Create and Craft TV. This week's YouTube channel comes from the UK, I believe, and it's called Create and Craft TV. And this is a YouTube channel that shows you how-tos and techniques and all kinds of different products that are all related to the crafting world. It's not just limited to scrapbooking and card making, but it extends into the sewing and quilting world as well. Their YouTube videos are very informative. They show you some of the latest products, and a lot of these products you can get in the UK, and many of them are available here in North America as well. So if you're looking for some ideas or looking for techniques, then I suggest you check out Create and Craft TV. So the link for that YouTube channel is in the show notes below, as is the link to Stephen and Walter Live from yesterday, and the link to this week's book, which we'll come to in a few minutes. So where does that take us? Well, let's have some coffee. I do have a cold. Unfortunately, I'm not sick. I just have a stupid cold, but I'm drugging myself up because I don't want to be that one on the airplane that's hacking out a lung and everybody is yelling, quarantine, quarantine, open a window, throw them out, kind of a thing. You know what that's like when you've got somebody just hacking up forever, and especially on a long flight. So I've got throat lozenges. I've got Otrivin to keep my sinuses clear. That's really what makes me cough, is postnasal drip. Sounds gross, I know. But if I use the Otrivin, that sort of dries up my sinuses and keeps me from coughing. And I'm taking daytime Tylenol for colds. And I have my pack on my carry-on. I've got, all kinds of little druggies in there. I've got nighttime and daytime Tylenol cold medicine. And I also have my Riccolo for my tickle in my throat. My Otrivin's in there. And I've even thrown in my Claritin. Claritin is to keep my eustachian tubes, I believe that's what they're called, in your ear, little tiny tubes. Mine have a tendency, especially as we move into the spring, I think it's allergies. I never had allergies when I was a kid, but I guess I have allergies now as an adult. My ears will get plugged up, and they'll stay plugged up for weeks. And the doctor told me that it's because my eustachian tube gets basically inflamed and it closes up. And he said the only real cure to that is just take extra strength Claritin. Well, my ears have a tendency to plug up when I'm in an airplane, and I can never get them unplugged. It takes about 2 days after I get off the plane to get my hearing back, and I hate that echo chamber in my head. And what's that saying about what's in my head? Hollow. Anyways, I find that if for about 5 days before I get on a flight, I pop one of these Claritin extra strength each day. And that really helps. It seems like my ears will still plug up a little bit, but within an hour, usually after I get off the plane. And in some incidents, it's been only minutes. It clears up. So I always take that with me. So yeah, this body's going to have a lot of drugs in it. Mix that with a little alcohol on the plane, I should sleep. No problem. So, moving on. So, what's pissing me off this week? Okay, speaking of drugs. Okay, so I'm on blood pressure pills and I'm on Crestor. Crestor is for cholesterol. I've been on it for years and years. And those are my two principal drugs that I'm on. And the blood pressure pills, as you know, is just recent. I mean, I'm not happy about that, but I guess, you know, it's either that or blow up. So I guess I have to take them. But I'm looking at my prescriptions, and well, my blood pressure pills, I have a lot of those. So I'm okay while we're away. But my cholesterol medication, I would be about 2 days short of it on while we're over in Australia. So I went over to the pharmacist, and I've had this situation before. And usually, if you still got quite a few of your pills left, they don't want to renew your prescription until you're down to about a week's supply or less. and I have almost a month's supply left of the cholesterol. So I went in and said to the pharmacist, you know, I'm going to Australia. I'm going to run out of this about 2-3 days before we leave Australia. And they said, no problem. They renewed it. Okay, that was easy. No problem. However, I had taken in one of the packages for my last prescription for Crestor, just to show them the, you know, the prescription number and all that kind of stuff. And when I got home, I looked at that box again and I noticed this label on it and it says, take 1 pill a day for the first week and take 2 thereafter. I always take only 1, and it's a very small amount of medicine that's in these pills. It's only 10 milligrams. And I'm thinking, wait, I've been taking this for years, and I've been taking it 1 day in the morning, never more than that. And I'm looking at the label a little closer. Wow, they mislabeled my prescription last time, and I never noticed it. You see, they put the sticker on it for another blood pressure pill, the first one that my doctor put me on, and I had a reaction to that pill. It basically makes you cough all the time. So she put me on a different one. But the original prescription was to take 1 pill daily for the first week, then 2 daily for the rest of the time. So I thought, well, you know, I knew what my prescription was. I knew that that was wrong. Well, it even had the wrong drug written on it. Had the blood pressure drug, not the Crestor on it. So I thought, should I just ignore this because this is probably a one-off, you know? But then I thought, well, maybe they would appreciate knowing this because, you know, if this had been somebody had never taken a drug before, a certain drug, if they got it mislabeled, it could result in death, right? And I'm sure the pharmacist would not want that. So I went in to pick up my prescription the day after I put it in, and I asked if I could speak to the head pharmacist, and he came over and I pointed this out to him. And I said, you know, mistakes happen. It's really didn't bother me that much because I knew what I was supposed to take, and I obviously knew this was wrong. But as I just said a minute ago, I said, what about somebody coming into you, this gets mislabeled, and, you know, they have serious consequences from it. Well, the pharmacist, and I'm not being racist, but is of Asian descent. And, you know, Asian people tend to be, never panic, tend to be very cool about things. And I mean, I was very cool about it. In fact, I was discussing it more or less as, well, you know, no harm done, just thought you'd like to know kind of a thing. He went, sorry. Okay, what else could he do? I'm not dead. I didn't have any severe consequences because of this, so, you know, what else could he do? I would have thought, though, what he should have said was, so sorry for the mistake. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. And in our next staff meeting, I will bring this up just to make double sure, you know, that this doesn't happen again. I would have thought that would have been the diplomatic and proactive answer to give. No, I just got sorry. Just like that, just the way I'm doing it. Sorry. Okay, well, when somebody comes on your doorstep dead because you mislabeled a prescription, is that what you're going to say? Oh, sorry, they're dead, kind of a thing. So what pisses me off is these drug places you go to. The one I go to is Shoppers Drug Mart. It's a big chain here in Canada, and they pride themselves on, you know, keeping you up to date and doing a history of your medication and looking at it for side effects and letting you know about those and interactions between different drugs if you're taking several of them. They're very proactive about that, you know, which I think is really good because let's face it, doctors don't know anything about drugs, okay? They don't. A salesman comes into their office and says, hey, we've got a new drug for cholesterol. You might want to try this. I don't know if there's a kickback or what. And I'm sure there is some kind of incentive for this. But, you know, basically the doctors don't, they take some pharmacology, I'm sure, in their studies, but that's not what they're principally there for. Pharmacologists, on the other hand, they're the guys that know all this stuff. It's chemistry, and they are very knowledgeable. So I would take the word over a pharmacologist over the word of a doctor when it comes to drugs. But that's what pissed me off. Here I'm putting my faith into my drug distributor, and they're screwing up. Now, this has only happened to me that one time. I don't have any other complaints about this company at all. So I'm going to continue dealing with them. They're usually fairly efficient, although sometimes when they're looking for your prescription, they could be anywhere and they hunt high and low. They eventually do find it. That's more of a clerical kind of thing, I guess. But I just thought, you know, sorry doesn't really give me confidence that this will not happen again or that you're going to do something about it. But I guess that's what it is. We're all subject to the bureaucracy of the drug companies and the people who look after the drugs in the medical community. And quite frankly, my thoughts about the medical community are this. They try to make you think that medicine has come a long way in the last couple of centuries, but you know, many times I don't think we're that much further ahead than they were in medieval times. You know, the humors, bloodletting, saw off a limb kind of a thing. That kind of thing. I really don't think they are. So basically you've got to be your own advocate and you got to watch things. So the lesson I learned from this is if I get a new prescription, make sure I read the labels carefully to make sure, one, that it's the correct label, and two, that I'm using it correctly. Just don't pop the pill. Okay, so that's why I'm pissed off this week and brought it up, because I've got my body full of chemicals right now for this stupid cold. I think I got it at the retreat. Figures. Okay, moving on. Product review. Okay. I wasn't going to do this, but I did. You know me and fabric. All right. So Northcott, who's a fabric producer, just came out with a new line. Well, it's actually part of their Stonehenge line, which I love. Their Stonehenge line. I've used it many, many times. They just came out with one called Solstice, which is supposedly to celebrate their 10th anniversary of establishing this line of fabric. And it's beautiful. And it's got a sort of a Celtic look to it. So I had to have a meter of 7 different fabrics, and so here they all are. Don't you love the way this is how they fold it up at the sewing store for you when they cut it? But it's really kind of attractive. And here's the rest right here. Beautiful colors. So I was thinking, actually, Northcott is having a bit of a contest where you use these fabrics and you design a 12 by 12 inch block, but I guess a bunch of stores are participating in this, and the idea is you go to each store and you buy their kit, and when you get, I don't know how many there are, 12 or something, then you go and, whoa, I've got little orbs. Actually, I think that's dust in the sunlight. Need to dust. Anyways, I digress. You go to each of these stores, you get the kit. I don't know how much they sell them for, usually about 10 bucks or something like that. And you put the blocks together, and then you put all the blocks together to make a quilt, and then you're supposed to take a picture and send it to Northcott, and you might win a prize. I don't know if I'm going to do this or not. We'll see. It depends where all the stores are located, too. I guess the contest ends on December 31st this year, so plenty of time. But those fabrics I just showed you, I've got some ideas in my head on what I want to design for myself with those. And I'm going to use Electric Quilt for that, the design program I have for quilt making. Okay, excuse me. I shouldn't have done that into the microphone. Okay, book review. A Simple Guide to Designing Scrapbooks. This is old. Sorry about the glare. This is old. This is by a company that doesn't exist anymore called Simple Scrapbooks. So you may have difficulty getting it, but you get a lot of ideas about layouts. And some of these you could apply to card making as well, and mixed media. So it's great for inspiration. If you're looking at a layout and you don't know what to do, you could check out this book and you might find something that you could adapt, or it gives you some ideas for something else. This comes from a whole series that this company used to put out, and I've shown you several of their other books as well, but they're very, very good. They're magazine style. Cost-wise, you can't get it on Amazon, but you can get it on eBay. What's going on with my lights? Weird, cloud must have gone over. You can get it on eBay, and eBay's price was $9.35 Canadian, which is fine. But here's the killer. Shipping was $19.39. So that's putting your book there up at about 30 bucks for this. And original price on this, Canadian was $23.25. But it is a good book, and you might be able to find it in your library. You might be able to find it in a used bookstore or something like that. If you do a little bit more of a hunt on the internet, you might find it there somewhere else for a cheaper price. But it's a good book. Okay, so moving on into my art evolution, my series that I've been running over the last few weeks. I went from scrapbooking to card making to art journals, mixed media, and now this week I'm going to show you the extension to my art journals, which is basically wall art.
So we've been talking about mixed media and art journaling, and there's a lot more you can do with the techniques that you use in an art journal. You can extend what you do, and I have done that, into other formats. For example, I'm going to take you on a little tour of my personal art gallery, which is basically the walls in my craft room where I've put a lot of my pieces. So here's one that I did. Now it's a scrapbook page, but you can see, if you think back to when I showed you my first efforts at scrapbooking, how my style has changed. And that's been because of art journaling and mixed media techniques. And this style of art of scrapbooking is very popular, where you center on one picture only and develop layers around it and under it with various embellishments, paints, things like that. And here's another one that I did in a similar vein. But you know, you can take your art journaling techniques and extend them so much further. So if we go over here to this wall, it's kind of a mishmash of all kinds of things. Here's essentially a scrapbook page. Sorry about the glare. Maybe I can get the glare off. Just give me a second. Yeah, it's a little darker, but no glare. You can see I did this on a canvas. Well, essentially what I did was I just mounted the scrapbook page on a canvas. But later on, I started working with canvases in a little bit other different ways. So here's a die-cut tree that I created into a family tree, and again mounted that on the canvas. But I started to decorate the actual canvas itself. And then on here, you can see that this has been all done on a canvas. And here I'm experimenting with sprays and foils and things like that. Another piece here, I think I can turn on the light now because I think there's less glare. So in this piece, I just grabbed any odds and bits that I had laying around and did a whole canvas with three-dimensional elements. Down here, this is something totally different. This is actually an old book, and I was trying my hand at book sculpture when I did this. Below that, and it's behind the light, sorry, move the light a little bit over. This is another canvas, but this was done with paint, and I just layered the paints in different ways on top of it. Plus I did use some stencil work and that kind of thing. Again, these are all techniques that could be done from the techniques that you use in an art journal. Now, I did start to experiment with other mediums as well. So here you can see I have some crackle paste and some gold rub on this particular piece. Again, sorry about the glare. And then I was experimenting with paint pouring. And this is a piece I particularly like because this is essentially the drippings from a paint pouring. They're called acrylic skins. And what I did was, after I poured the paint and let it drip off the sides of the canvas, I made sure that I had a non-stick surface for the paint to drip onto. And when it dried in about 24 hours or 2 days, you could peel it off and you could shape it into whatever you wanted. And that's essentially what I did with this piece. Now, speaking of paint pouring, I do have several examples of paint pouring. I was into that in a big way when I discovered that. And I had a lot of fun playing around with it, and you can see here's some more examples. And I tried different mediums when I was doing the pourings. So up here, for example, this one's got a little sparkle to it because I think I added into the paint some actual glitter. And then here you have your more traditional paint pourings with the cells coming out. And on this one I really like because I used a type of enamel kind of paint. Vertrol is what it's called, and it dries. It takes a long time to dry, but when it dries, it's very glossy, and I really like it. It looks like it's been baked enamel on that. the video doesn't show it very well. Then I thought, well, what about doing canvases using paint pouring as background techniques for other mixed media parts? So here are some pieces of old jewelry and wire. I tried my hand at wire wrapping. That's what this is, on a microscope slide that I painted. And down here, these little pieces are actually little miniature paint pourings on little grunge tiles from, I think, or plastic tiles actually, from Tim Holtz. Fragments, I believe they were called. And I just mounted them on this. So again, just experimenting with different mediums. Here's one back here. This was my experiment in not so much paint pouring, but in abstract painting. I think I called that Burst, and I had different elements and layers on it as well. Again, I was just playing, and that's really the fun of doing art. So let's just move around over to this side, and you can see some other examples of paint pouring. At one point, I had to stop this because I was getting so many of them. And then I was doing, again, a layered canvas, but this is a reverse canvas, or what I like to call it is using your canvas as a shadow box, because it's basically, it's the underside of a canvas, of a frame canvas, and I painted the canvas and then added these elements. It just gives it a shadow box effect. So if we move over a little bit further, and we can take a look at some of the pieces that I have here. Again, it was whatever I could find. This piece is a Halloween piece, and next to it is another, well, not a Halloween piece. This one is sort of a steampunky-like, again in that shadow box effect. And I was using some of the elements that I got from Tim Holtz, which are the paper dolls. And if you see those little gauges, those come from Ian, Vern Industries in the UK, who is the partner to Mike Deacon. And he makes these little things. I'll just give you a close-up of these faces, these gauges. And I just layered them on other elements to bring them out. I really like the way that piece turned out. Again, another Halloween piece using the reverse canvas or the shadow box like technique. Up here on the wall you can see some more paint pouring, and I was experimenting with this one that after the paint pouring was dry I used StazOn ink to stamp these butterflies. Again, just experimenting with the mediums. And this is another one that almost looks like a alien landscape of sorts. So let's move on over a little further and let's take a look at the ones that are up here on the doors. Now you see these in my vlogs as my backdrop, but these are my early experiments on canvas where I'm sort of transitioning from doing a mixed media art journal scrapbooking page and moving it onto canvases. And here I got a little bit more experimental with stencil. This particular piece I really like because I can't paint, but this looks like a painting, but I cheated. Those are brush strokes. I was playing around with color and just swirling the brush around in the paint, and at the bottom I didn't paint those. Those are from a rubber stamp. I stamped them onto the canvas board, but I really like this piece, how it turned out. This is another attempt at a form of paint pouring and painting at the same time. I basically poured the canvas, but then I used a brush to kind of move the paint in wherever I wanted it to go. This is another one where I actually took a stick, a skewer, and pulled it through the paint to create those ripple effect. And I was playing around with texture on this one, and I know the video doesn't pick it up, but there is. If I go sideways, you can see that it's a bit raised on there as well. But you can take your art journaling techniques and your mixed media techniques and you can extend them to other things like cards. And here you will see a wide variety of cards that I've made using basic mixed media techniques, and similarly up here on my bulletin board. But what I also want to show you down here are the ATCs, because people are really into ATCs, and I have 3 bulletin boards full of these, and these are made by the people that take my art journaling class. and they always give me one copy of it. And you've seen me feature these on my vlogs before, but this is where they're actually all on display. And every one of these is using techniques of mixed media to create them. On this far bulletin board, you have giant tags. Again, using the techniques of mixed media, just using whatever elements I had laying around, I created these, and these masks as well, which are just glued on, a whole bunch of beads that I got for next to nothing, probably at Michael's or the dollar store. But you can see all the different things that you can do. So from basic scrapbooking to card making to the beginnings of art journaling, now I'm into canvassed art and all kinds of things. So one thing leads to another.
So that pretty much finishes that series on my art evolution. I don't know if there's anywhere else I can go with that for now, but I'll think about it. But I'll be away from that for about 3.5 weeks anyways, so we'll see then. And it looks like it's snowing in this room, yet I can't see what I'm seeing here on the camera. I keep a very clean house, so where's this dust coming from? I don't know, but maybe they're little angels. Okay, we won't worry too much about that. So, also continuing my series, my new series about the tunnel card creation, and this is the last installment of this, so check it out.
So now it's time to add the little fancy cutouts that I did, or the fussy cutouts that I did from the scrapbook pad, and lay those on each one of these pages. And I've already done a preliminary layout. Actually, I've done a little bit more than a preliminary layout. I've got my elements adhered on each of my pages except for the top one. I'm going to come back to this in a minute to show you the procedure for this. So here we have each of the layers. I have not yet assembled, glued these or adhered them to the spine of the book in here. We'll do that in a few minutes. I'm just laying these out in the order they'll appear, and this is the last page. So what I did was I did a combination of shadowing with some black ink around each one of the cutout elements, and some of the elements I have also popped up with some dimensional squares, these kind of little things right here, just to give it another bit more of a layered look, dimensional layered look. So let's take the very first page of this. And I'm going to use these two elements that I cut out for this. So first thing I want to do is take some black ink, and I'm using an archival ink, one that is waterproof so that it won't come off once it's dry. And I'm just going around lightly the edges of the cutout. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want these elements to pop out from the background a little bit more. And that's the same thing that I'm doing with the little dimensional squares as well, because I want them to pop up. And we'll do this little element as well. Now I picked this particular little element to serve as not just a decorative piece, but also as a bit of a sort of a title or headline for this particular card, Café Parisien. Now this card is sort of generic because right now there's nothing in this that would say it's for a birthday or anniversary or anything like that. But that could be personalized later. So I've got these two pieces shadowed. Now I want to put them on here. And I think what I want to do is I'm going to glue this flat so that it is coming right across the base of the opening. Because that's the whole idea of the tunnel card, is that you can see hints of what's on each layer when the card is closed. So I'm just going to glue that flat, and I'm going to use my favorite glue of the moment, which is Gorilla Glue Clear. It's a super glue, and it holds everything well, and it doesn't really warp my paper, and it dries extremely fast. So get that positioned. Now, because I'm using this kind of glue, this is what it looks like, Gorilla Glue, I don't have to worry about making sure that it's secured on all sides. Little glue easing out there. I'm just going to take that off because it's going to hold it down. And I may put a little bit right on here, I think. And if it oozes out a little bit while it's still wet, I just take a baby wipe and lightly blot it up. But it does dry clear. Now the umbrella piece, I want to lay it across the opening here. But I do want to, and I don't care if it hangs off over the edge over here, it just gives it another dimensional look. But I want to pop it up. So I'm going to use some of my three-dimensional squares around the edges of this. And these are pretty strong in terms of their holding ability. Let's make sure I don't have any of these popping out from behind. I will on that one, so just pull that one off. And I'll stick it up here. And put a few in around here. And let's just see, will that be enough to pop it up? Maybe one, there's one there, maybe one here in the center. Okay, so I've got those on there. Now one thing I forgot to do, but I'm not going to worry about it, is I should have added a little drop of the Gorilla Glue to the bottom of each one of these sticky pads, even though these already have sticky on the back of them. It's just an extra level of security to make sure they do not drop off over time, because that can happen with dimensional squares or pop dots. Over time they can dry out and start dropping off, but I'm not going to worry about it today, because really I'm doing this more or less as a demo. Okay, I'm just putting a little drop of Gorilla Glue on each one of those pads. And there we go. So this is a little bit more dimensional, and see that? I made a mistake. I have one hanging out there. I do not want that hanging out there. Just as well I didn't put any crazy glue or any of this Gorilla Glue on the back of that, because I might not have been able to get that off. Okay, so all of those elements are now together. So the next part is to assemble the card itself, to put the hinges on. And to do that, I'm going to use some double-sided tape. So I need to find that, and I'll come right. Okay, so what I've done now is I have added a few additional pieces of embellishments here. I added some bling pieces that I have collected over time from various places, some costume jewelry that I've cut up that I bought at a charity shop. And I also went in my stash and I found some flowers that I had made some time ago. These are Heartfelt Creation flowers. They weren't doing anything, and so I thought the colors went fine with this, so I added those as well for another dimensional element. And I added, since this is my first page in the tunnel card, I've added this little Tim Holtz word chip that says "Love This Life," which is kind of generic, because you could, if you were going to give this to somebody as a card, this would work for almost any occasion. So I did that, and also I just moved these up here out of the way for a minute. I added another embellishment here. This was actually a type of button. I cut off the shank and popped it up. And on the back page of this, I added a pocket. Paper I cut down from the pad, and I added a couple of these cutouts that were also included in the pad. And so on these could be for little pictures, or they could be just for a personal note that the sender might want to give. It's all up there, but I just thought it was an additional element. I also added a spine cover piece here on the back, and also went around the edges of that with black ink. And I have now prepared my hinges, and I've put a piece of 1/2 inch double-sided tape on each one of the hinge flaps, and these will adhere my pages. So that's what we're going to do now. Now, one thing I'm a little concerned about is the fact that I've made my elements 3D. They're raised up in some of these cases. Now, I think there's going to be enough space, because each of these flaps is about 1/2 inch or so. I think there'll be enough space. But if it gets a little chunky and a little bit wider, that's okay. I think it'll just add to the overall aesthetic of this. So I'm going to put on my second last page, if you count this one as a page. And we want to be careful lining this up. And this is a little awkward, as you can see. I'm thinking if I put it right in here in the crease, line it up. Sorry if my head's in the way or not. Okay, that seems to work pretty good. Now I just noticed something. By doing this, I see this black part that's here. And you'll notice I am not putting anything on the back of these pages. Those could be embellished as well. That's up to the individual. I might put a little piece of washi tape down along the inside of that. We'll just see. But let's get these other pages on as well. And I want to keep them straight and in the right order. Okay, just checking that one that I didn't put the cover on the wrong page. I know it's very difficult for you to see this on camera, but I am lining it up with those seams, the flaps. Okay, so far so good. Let's get this second page of the album in. Now the problem with working with double-sided tape when you do this is you do not have any wiggle room. Once this is stuck, it is stuck for the most part. You might be lucky to be able to peel it off, but best not to have to test that theory. Okay, and our last page, which is our cover page. And this one might be the trickiest of them all. My hands are not that steady. Okay, got it. All right. Let's just bend it over, and there we go. We have finished our album. Or have we? I can never stop when it comes to embellishing. So, but just before I do something, I think I'm going to try a little Wink of Stella in some parts of this. But before I do that, I'm just going to show this to you close. You can see through the hole. Now, you might not want to cover the holes up as much as I have. But as you see, each one becomes a layer, little surprise behind each page. I think that's turning out pretty nice. So, do I want to add some Wink of Stella? I think I do. Do I have... Now, if you don't know what Wink of Stella is, it comes in these water brush-like pens. I'm giving it a good shake. I haven't used this one for a while. And you just brush it on. Now I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper here just to get things flowing. Yep, there's some there. And all it does is add a subtle hint of shimmer to whatever you put it on. I like to use it as a finishing touch. And put a little on my flowers. It's just to make them, when the light hits it, give them a nice little glow, a little sparkle. And this dries extremely quickly. And you don't have to cover the entire surface, just enough to give it a little bit of sparkle. See the sparkle? See if the light's on that. A little bling is a nice thing. Oh, that rhymes. Now, I'm just going to look here. See, there's another flower. I think this flower should have a little sparkle because it just makes them stand out a little bit more. And as I said, the Wink of Stella
does come in other colors as well, but primarily the clear one seems to be the best-selling one. I know when I worked for the scrapbooking store and we had these in stock, we couldn't keep them in stock. Everybody wanted them, and they are great and very easy to use, as you can see. Occasionally I shake it just to make sure I'm getting some of the stuff down inside. Now, one little tip: when you get low, don't throw it out. Unscrew it, add a little bit of water, and you'll still get some more shimmer that's stuck on the insides of the barrel. And there. I think we've got it. So let's just move some things out of our way here and take another look. So here we have it. And I don't know if I can move my camera in a little bit without losing focus. Does that make any difference? Well, pulls it in a little bit. Hope it's still in focus here. But there you have it. Now, it does look more like an album than a card, and it could be an album. Mind you, with these holes that are cut into it, it doesn't give you a lot of space for things like pictures and things like that. But as a card, I think it's very, very unique. Of course, now, if you want to send this in the mail, it's going to cost you, because this is pretty thick. See, there are my pages. Might be better to hand deliver it, or put it in a box and ship it that way, so things don't get crushed if you're going that 3D element look. It could be flatter. You don't need to add all the 3D embellishments that I've added to it. But there you have it. And as I said, these pages could be embellished as well. I'm not going to bother. Oh, one thing I did suggest was a little washi tape down the sides of those seams. So let me come back in just a second. Okay, I went and I added a little bit of washi tape to these spine pieces in here just to break them up. They were looking kind of stark, just in plain black. So I just put some washi tape down here. You may want to use a little glue with the washi tape. I didn't. These ones were fairly sticky, but sometimes washi tapes have a tendency to peel off because they're not that sticky. It depends on what you've got as washi tape. So here's the final card. I think it looks pretty good. Let's just take a look at it one more time. So you can see that you get a little peekaboo. Maybe they should call it a peekaboo card. Through each window in each layer. So anticipation of something on the next page that's a little bit different. And then the ending. Now at the end of this, you might want to add a card here with a sentiment to it, or a personal message if you're giving it to somebody on a special occasion, whatever. And of course we have the spine done, and we have a little pocket on the back with 2 extra cards in it. And so there we have it, a little tunnel card. So I hope you enjoyed this series. The next series, we're going to tackle this, the Photofolio Scrapbook. I have no idea what this is like. I haven't even taken it out of the box yet. It's by iCraft, the same company that I used to make the album before this one. And it shows you on the back the pieces that are involved, and it gives you a sneak peek at how this all opens up in the flap. So this looks kind of exciting. It kind of reminds me of the Tim Holtz portfolio, which I showed earlier in my series on my art evolution. So can't wait to get started on this, but this will take a few weeks yet because we're off to Australia, as you know, so I won't be able to get to this until we come back from then. Okay, we'll see you for this. Bye-bye.
So when we come back from Australia, I'll start my next series, and that's using one of those iCraft kits again, like I did for the first series on making an album. And you saw in that video that I have one that makes a little portfolio. So that might be fun. So that's what I'm going to work on next, but that'll be when I come back from Australia. So events in the past week. Update on my mother, she's fine. Nothing really to talk about there. I called her yesterday. She knows we're off to Australia. I thought she might lay a guilt trip on me about going away for 3.5 weeks, but nope, she didn't. She sounded in good spirits, and that always makes me happy when my mother is happy. So that's great. And nothing else there to talk about. And this week hasn't been a lot of things that we've been up to, you know, trying to get ourselves organized. for the trip. I don't pack a whole lot. We have a washer dryer in every place that we're staying. Walter's my travel agent. He's booked everything, the trip, the flights. We have several flights internally in Australia to go on. He's booked all the hotels, all the excursions, the whole bit. He likes doing that kind of thing. And he usually gets really good prices at really good places. So every place we're going to is sort of like an efficiency unit because there's a kitchen in each one. And best of all, there's a washer dryer, which cuts down on the amount of clothes that we have to take. So essentially, I'm taking about 7 days worth of stuff, which boils down to about 3 pairs of shorts, 1 pair of long pants, 4 short sleeve shirts, and a long sleeve shirt, my jacket. And I don't think I've ever packed this light for a trip, ever. But each time I go away, I assess what I took and what I didn't really need, and I kind of make note of that, and so the next time I don't need it. So my suitcase is only weighing right now about 12.6 kilograms, and we're allowed, I think, 23 kilograms on the plane. So cool. I'm half that weight, means I've got room to buy fabric. When I'm in Australia, if I see, I'm going to be looking for quilt stores, and I'm going to be looking for unique fabric that just screams Australia, because I want to do another Australian type quilt. So we'll see what I can come up with when I'm there. And I've got room in my suitcase because fabric gets heavy to bring it all home. So that's great. What else have we been up to this week? Nothing. That's been about it. So I guess we're done today. So as I said, we're going to try to do little pop-up lives. They won't be at our usual time, and because we're over in Australia, for you in North America, heaven only knows what time of the day or night that might appear, if we can even do them. We'll see. But that's what we're going to try. So I got to finish my packing and get ready for when the car picks us up, get this up onto YouTube, and yeah, hope you have a great week. And if next time that you see us, we'll probably be in Australia. Okay, have a good one. Bye-bye.